Hello, welcome to my channel once again, and I remain your darling Omobeejay. I love to create content about myself, if that makes any sense. Okay, so lifestyle, gratitude, and how come I cannot remember the things I create content about? I don't know. Maybe I'm not just being serious today. Okay, so today's vlog is going to be about nursing in the UK. Yes, so if you are a nurse and you're looking to relocate to the UK, then I think you might do well to watch this video or share with anybody you know, because I think you'll get one or two things about it. Yes, so a point in time usually comes when in the NMC process, when you're trying to relocate and then you're faced with this question, NHS or care home, and like, okay, so what's the difference between the two of them? There was this document I saw during my time that was just about the number of hours, and it wasn't very explicit. But yes, I've been in, no, well, I'm in the system now, and I can say one or two things about it. Disclaimer, please. The things I'm about to say are based on my personal opinion, based on my experiences, based on things I've heard close people around me say. So it is not 100%. You might not go for it. It might not be your opinion. So I don't want anybody to come and discredit whatever it is that are my points of view here and just think it's the other way. Yeah, so we all view things differently. So I just need to say that so that we can be aware that there is no strict rule about these things. It's just what I feel as a person. And if anybody asks me, being in the system, I would like my advice or suggestion. These are things I would say to the person to inform your decision. Whatever decision you make on the long run is up to you. It's absolutely up to you. Yes, so practicing, before I go into the NHS or care home question, I would just like to say, okay, practicing in the UK and practicing, what is that? So yes, okay, yeah, practicing in the UK and practicing in my home country, Nigeria, any difference? Because I've had people ask me these questions a couple of times, and I just say, guys, like, is it more stressful over there, blah 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 blah. And many times I just look and say, to be honest, it could be more stressful, I would say. But I think one thing that just makes it like very different from what I had back home is the long shifts. The shifts are damn long. I mean, when I just started, I used to feel like I was having 3 days in one. And I started in winter such that it gets dark on time and it doesn't get bright on time. So like, I am going to work, it is still very dark, pitch dark. I'm coming back from work, it is pitch dark. The following day, I am going to work, it is pitch dark, and then it's pitch dark. Like, just keep going, pitch dark, pitch dark, pitch dark to pitch dark, pitch dark. That kind of thing. I just have a little note on here, just as a guide while I do a run through quickly. I was saying that back home, we don't have shifts as long as what we have here. We have shifts of about 8 hours during the day and maybe 12 hours at night, and there are usually 3 shifts patterns: morning, afternoon, and night in some places. And even in places where you have 2 shifts patterns, the day shift is still not as long as 12 hours. So it was usually damn stressful. And yeah, that's just the thing I would say is one of the major stress there. And then of course the pattern of administering care could be slightly different from what you have back home, but that's not even the focus of today. I just want you to know how the length of the shifts basically. So you have 37.5 hours, and then most times you get to do 3 12-hour shifts in a week. Sometimes it could be back to back, and sometimes it could be spread across the week. It just depends on where you're working, basically. Okay, so now at one point in time or the other, as I said earlier, we'll get to choose. Everybody comes to the point of NHS or care home, NHS or care home. So basically, what's the difference between the two of them? When you say NHS, working with the NHS basically means working with the government. Yes, it's as simple as that. You can liken it to, for Nigerians, you can liken it to working in a teaching hospital like Lutz or UCH or LASUT or any of those teaching hospitals anyway. And while working in a care home is a private, it's like working in a private care, that kind of thing. But really, even though you're working in a care home which is private, invariably you're still working with the NHS, because all care homes are under NHS social care, or like a branch of the NHS. So as a nurse in care home, you do have access to some of, if not most of the things that NHS workers have access to. So basically that's the two of them. So what happens in NHS and what happens in care home? When you work in NHS, like I said earlier, it's more like you're working in a hospital, and you have, just like every hospital, you have the medical, surgical, orthopedics, hematology, neurosciences, endocrinology, like all of those things are in hospitals, of course, be differentiated into different wards and different places like that. Whereas in the care home, you have people for long-term care. You have people for long-term care, and the categories of people you could find in care homes, you could find the elderly, you could find people with mental health challenges, like who are being harmful to themselves and then to others around them. So they are being nursed in care homes till they are better and they can be rehabilitated back into the society. Yeah, and then you could also have people with disabilities, like learning disability, autism, Asperger's syndrome, and all of that. So when you actually hear you're going to work in a care home, I would like to warn you to clarify what categories of patients or residents you're going to be having in the care home you are going to be working in. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say. So what are the major differences now? I have a little note on here just as a guide. So if you see me looking down, it's just to see I'm not missing anything out. So if you ask anybody, NHS care home, which one is better or anything, one thing everybody usually tends to say first is care home pays better than the NHS. Yes, that's not wrong. In the NHS, the average pay is about £24,000 before tax anyway, per annum, before tax, and then the take home monthly is usually about 1718 without bank shifts or without overtime. But when people do overtime, it tends to buffer up the salary, and then they could go home with about £2,000 max. When I mean bank jobs, I mean overtime, more like the days you're not working, you can pick extra shifts to work, and you can't do more than 2 in every week. So more like the maximum number of days you can work in every week is 5 days. Whereas on the care home, on the other hand, the pay, it depends anyway. And even for the NHS though, and that's why I said the average, it could be more than that and it could be less than that. It could be more for expensive areas like London or Bournemouth, places that are expensive. There's usually this thing they call, what do they call it? So I can't remember now. But more like, because those areas are expensive, their allowance or their wages are also tailored into that, so they tend to earn more compared to people that don't live in high cost areas. Yeah, people that live in high cost areas earn more to justify where they are living. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say. Yeah, so sometimes for people that live places like that anyway, they could earn as much as £30,000 per annum. But we should bear it in mind that they are high cost areas and the salary would most times go back into rent and bills, because the cost of living in those areas are more compared to what you have in low cost areas. So on the long run, it's usually about the same thing. Yeah, so that's it. Whereas for care homes, on the other hand, the pay is more. An average care home worker, it could be less, it could be more, it depends really. So sometimes about 30k pounds, yeah, it could be more, it could be less, based on some of the factors I said for the NHS the other time regarding the pay. And then it could also be a function of the employers too. So it depends, there's no fast rule about it. So but that's just the pay. What else? Okay, so yeah, in NHS and care home, what's it like? Yes, in the NHS they have a clearly defined program, in the sense that it is clear that you go from band 5 to band 6 to band 7 to sister to charge nurse to, like, it is clear that probably every 3 years, or there is a system in place already. Whereas care homes, on the other hand, it may not be clear. It's not as clear as it is in the NHS in care homes. Let me just leave it like that. And then what else? Yeah, some people say that in NHS you are unable to work flexible shifts, whereas if you work in a care home you could get more flexible shifts. Yeah, I would say that may be true, yeah, to some extent. What else? Regarding the routine in both places, like I said, of course nothing is a routine. So you just know, something just keeps happening at every point in time. Something is happening. If you're not doing herbs, you are doing meds. If you're not doing meds, you are doing personal care. So nothing is a routine, but the routine in both places differs. The routine in the NHS is quite different from the routine you have in care homes. In NHS, take herbs, you do the herbs, you do the meds. It's pretty similar anyway, but the difference will just be that in NHS, like, it has to keep going, whereas in care home, because of the nature of residents that you have, sometimes you dance or you play your routine around them, especially if you're working with the elderly. If you're working with say mentally challenged people, or with learning disabilities, you could still try to get them into a routine. But for the elderly, is it a 92-year-old man you want to be waking up by 7 o'clock and say, wake up, or by fire by force, this morning, this is the time to do this? Like, it's not fair on them. So as much as, even though they are in care homes, we try to give them the being at home experience. Just let them do their things at their time. So you know, you would still check their hubs, but it's not like at this time between 10 and 11 you are checking everybody's hubs. Some of them prefer to be awake at night and then they sleep during the day. So if you are disturbing that kind of person, it's like, it's not being fair on him or her. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say. So it's still the same routine of, you do ops, you do meds, you do this, you do that, but it's similar, but not in the same pattern. Like, you tailor it around the residents or the patients you're dealing with. Another factor I'd like to bring in here would be that, okay, the manner of work in both places. In the NHS, like I said earlier, it's like an hospital. You have everybody. If there is an emergency now, once you press the emergency buzzer, you find the emergency team or emergency crash team coming, and then everything is in place and everything is fine, like that. But in care homes, most times it's like residential homes. If at all there is anything, it is expected that the nurse should, it's like you are all in all, that kind of thing. You should know, you should have the first aid, important things at your fingertips. Because yes, you would call the emergency, you call the ambulance, but it would still take a while before they come. And what you are able to do at that time will determine what happens to the casualty on the long run. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say. So it is expected that you are good, like, you know what you are doing to a large extent, something like that. And then aside that, in care homes, since you know you don't have so many people around you to come review and review and review all the time. The onus is on you to know when something is likely to go wrong and escalate it to the GP as soon as possible. So the place of early what is it now? Early recognition and escalation as soon as possible is very, very, very important in care homes. Whereas in NHS, like, people are always on ground to review. So you have to be on your toes, that kind of thing. That thing is, in the NHS, many times you are involved with personal care as the nurse, more like you want to change pads, you want to lift, you want to reposition and all of that. But in care homes, many times it's usually such that you have the nurse, most times it's always one or two nurses depending on the capacity of the home, and then you have carers who tend to do the personal care while you focus on the medication and you focus on the important things, the paperwork, the documentations that need to be done, the chasing of medications, escalation to the GP, and all of those things. Excuse me. While you focus on that, so in care home, many times the nurse may not do so much of personal care, whereas in the NHS you get to do those things like on a steady. And then in care homes, the nurse patient ratio is not balanced. It's not balanced at all. If you have to do WHO recommendation, it's not balanced. You can have a nurse to, depending on where, you can have a nurse to 10 residents, to 20, to 27. It just depends on where, depends on your employer. Yeah. So, and then in NHS, on the other hand, well, I'm not very sure of what the figures are, but I know it's not like what you have in care homes. You can't have one nurse to 10 residents or 10 patients in the NHS, or to 20, 27. And it's basically because of the routine that I mentioned earlier for both places. I think I've covered all of that. So now I'll just move into academic progression in both places. Yes, some people opine that in NHS you're unable to progress academically, whereas they would say in care home you can. Yeah, but I've heard from someone who is in the NHS, and she says that she was unable to go back into schooling because she was working in the NHS, and she feels that if she was in a care home she would probably have been able to. And I also do have another friend who works in a care home, and she recently completed a master's program. Yes, it was stressful. She looked me in the eye and told me, I won't lie to you, it was stressful. But she was able to, because she set her mind to it. So sometimes I would say progressing academically is an individual thing. It's if you know you really want to go for it. No matter the odds, you're gonna go for it. Yes. So in the NHS, one thing operates. You could work in for academic progression. You could work in certain units for a while, and then you'd request from your manager that you would like to progress, you'd like to study more on whatever cases you have on that unit. I don't know if you get what I mean. For instance, if it's if you're on a diabetic ward, and then you've dealt with diabetic patients for a while, you could request from your manager that you want to become a diabetic nurse, and then you go for training and go for courses to become a diabetic nurse, something like that. I'll just conclude it with this. For schooling, for people who have it in mind to school, one thing we should just bear in mind is it's either you do part-time or you do full-time. And because of the kind of visa you came in through, doing full-time is almost like an impossible thing. You should do part-time, which according to what I've heard some people say, your visa you could do part-time. Of course, it's going to be longer, and you have to ensure that it doesn't affect your work hours. And best bet is to do full-time, and full-time is almost like an impossible thing. But I know someone who works the same hours I work, and she was able to complete her master's program full-time, not even part-time, in 1 year. So it depends on individuals, as I said again. So it just depends on whether or not you want to or you don't want to. And yes, I should warn you, schooling in the UK can be quite expensive. Yes, it can be quite expensive. And then the fees is usually such that for UK citizens, the fees is way lesser than what you're going to pay as an international student. And when you arrive here, you are still going to pay as an international student. And the interesting thing is, you don't have access to scholarships because you are resident in the UK already. So you have to fund it by yourself. And how much are we talking about now? If you would like to enroll for your master's, you could be looking about 15,000 to 18,000, or even more, 18,000 pounds, which is quite a lot of money. And then if it's for your BSc, it just depends. It depends actually. So most times what people do is to take online courses and online certifications, just so that you just keep updating your knowledge, that kind of thing. But the good thing is, for some people, their resolution is just that they would wait until they can pay like the citizens before they continue their study, something like that, because your bills would not wait for you. So you can't afford to be putting all the money that is supposed to go into bills and rent and all, putting it into school. But like I said, if you have it at the top of your mind to get schooling out of it as soon as possible, it doesn't matter. I have a friend who did it. She did not mind. She spent all the money, went in full-time, paid as an international student, and she has completed her master's today. So yes, depends on you. It's up to you. But usually, if you can hold on till about 5 years or 6 years of being in the UK, yeah, you could qualify on the long run to pay as the citizens usually pay. Why do I citizens doesn't sound right? I don't know the word now. But I know it's either you pay as this or you pay as international. Citizens could pay as low as 3k or 5k. When you as an international student, you are paying 18,000. You to see the difference. Money that is not enough before, but it's up to you anyway on the long run. Yeah, I will be ending the vlog now so it doesn't get too long. But basically, these are the differences between the NHS and the care home, pay-wise, routine-wise, flexible shifts-wise, what happens in both places, and the career, clearly defined career progression, as well as the academic pursuits in both places. Till we meet again, till we come again on air to have to discuss something else. Leave your questions in the comment section if you have any questions or anything you'd like me to discuss. I'm more than happy to. And if you have similar experiences, I would also like you to leave that for me in the comment section. I remain your darling Omobeejay. Remain in God, and God bless you. Bye. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Please subscribe now.